Hi, welcome back. This is our section on how to taste wine. Now, everyone knows how to drink wine. That's not the hard part. Tasting wine, to analyze it, is a little bit different. But it can be easily taught, and you'll learn a lot from following these 3 simple steps. Wine tasting breaks down into look, smell, and taste. That first step is look. We want to look at the wine to assess its color, its clarity, and its hue. Now very quickly, we'll just talk about clarity. All of the wines you're going to be exposed to as a consumer will be perfectly clear. Modern techniques in fining, filtration, and clarification have left our wines star bright and sparkling. The only time you'll ever see any kind of haze in a wine would be in a well-aged commercial Bordeaux or in a very well-aged vintage port. They can throw a deposit after a number of years or have a little bit of haze in the bottle. On the other hand, if you're aging your own wine at home, you may see a small deposit of color in the inside of the bottles after 5, 7, 8 years of time. It's not a sign that the wine is bad or that it's spoiling. It's a sign that it's maturing and going through its phases. Okay, with clarity out of the way, let's look at the wine for color and hue. Now, when you see most people looking at wine, you'll see them do this. This is wrong. Because if I do this, I can tell I'm not going to like this wine at all. It's got a cameraman in it. If you hold the wine up to assess its color, clarity, and hue, all you'll see is what's behind your glass. What you want to do is tilt the glass over top of a white background. Now you're going to accomplish 2 things. Number 1, by tilting the glass, you'll make the pool of wine inside it shallower. It'll be easier to see through and easier to assess for color, clarity, and hue. The white background also provides a neutral color for you to look at, so you're not seeing what's behind the glass. White wines range in color from water white all the way down to a deep golden yellow. The whiter wines are often things like Soave, Trebbiano, the light Italians. Darker wines are Sauvignon Blanc and some of the lighter Chardonnays. They can have a straw color. Now, oak-aged Chardonnays and very well-aged other white wines can go down to a deep golden yellow. And ice wines can even be an amber hue. Normally, people associate the darker colored wines with heavier flavors, and that's a pretty good rule of thumb. The only time you should be concerned about the hue of a white wine is if it goes to a brown color. That could indicate oxidation. Of course, though, by the time it does get a brown color, you're probably going to be able to tell it's spoiled right away. Red wines range in hue from a light garnet or ruby color all the way to a deep inky purple black. Now, as a general rule of thumb, the darker a wine, the heavier the flavor. But that's not always true. There are some wines, principally French Burgundy, which are light garnet to a medium ruby color, but they're very intense in flavor and very expensive in price. On the other end of the scale, things like Beaujolais Nouveau or Italian Dolcetto can have a deep purpley color, but they're lighter in flavor. In fact, they can even be drank lightly chilled like a patio wine. On the other hand, pretty much darker is your good rule of thumb for a heavier wine. Now, a quick word about the hue of reds. There's something very special about them. When red wines are very young, they contain not only a red pigment, but also a blue one. As they age and mature, the unstable pigment, the blue one, breaks down and is gone. That leaves behind only red pigments. Red and blue make purple, so as a consequence, the wine goes to a true red, and it can even verge on a brick red color. That's not a sign of damage, it's not a sign of oxidation, it's a sign that you've got a very fully mature wine. The only time you should be concerned is if the wine is in fact a brown color or if it's got a grayish tinge right at the edge. But again, by the time it reaches that stage, you'll know pretty quickly that it's spoiled. The next step is to smell the wine to assess the aroma and bouquet. To do that, you're going to want to swirl the wine in the glass. Swirling releases more of the aromatic compounds out of the wine so you can smell them. Just like this. Swirl the wine in a circle to make sure it covers the interior surface of the glass. Now, I am a trained professional. I can swirl freehand. If you have trouble doing this without spattering the first 3 rows, maybe what you want to do is to take your glass and set it on a flat surface. Leave it sitting on the tabletop and move the base of the wine back and forth in small circles. Very short, and it'll swirl on its own. And because the glass is stabilized with the tabletop, you won't get any spatters or spills. The next step is to bring the glass up to your nose, stick it right in, and take a very deep sniff. Now, this is a little indelicate. By deep sniff, I mean really deep. If you use some little bunny sniff, you're not going to get a lot out of that glass. You want to get enough air rushing through your olfactory cavity that you can get the full intensity of the aromas and the bouquet. Just like this. Now, a couple of things about this. Number one, after about 3 sniffs, you're going to reach olfactory accommodation. The smell receptors in your nose are going to get overloaded, and you're going to stop being able to pick out new things. So stop after about 3, think about what you've smelled, and get a little fresh air. Number 2, to a lot of people this seems indelicate, snorting and snuffling at a glass of wine. But you've paid for this. You deserve to get the most out of it. And this is perfectly good etiquette for wine testing. So go ahead and get your nose in and get a good big sniff. Oh, one more thing. Please make sure your nose is not immersed in the wine when you do your sniffing. That can be pretty painful. The next step is to taste the wine. Now hold on. We don't just want to take a big gulp and swallow it. Tasting follows a very specific process. Step 1, take a very small sip of the wine. Perhaps a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half. Hold it in your mouth just behind your front teeth and in front of your tongue, so it's right there at the front. Next, you want to kind of pucker up as though you're going to whistle, but please don't whistle. Instead, you want to give it a little smooch and draw some air in through the wine, through your mouth, and down across your palate. What this does is it drives those aromatic flavor compounds to the back of your throat, where they will mix with your nasal cavity, and you will get an explosion of flavor and aroma. Let me demonstrate. After you do the swirling, go ahead and work the wine around the inside of your mouth. Be sure to cover your cheeks, your gums, and your tongue. You can perceive flavor and weight of the wine all over the inside surface of your mouth. Then swallow and stop. Think about what you've just tasted. If you swallow and move on a little too quickly, you'll miss the changes that happen as the wine warms up and spreads across your palate. As the alcohol volatilizes, as the different flavor and aroma compounds warm up, they change. The wine will give different flavors, different aromas. This is referred to as the wine's finish. So when somebody says this wine has a long finish, or this wine finishes of fruit or oak, that's what they're talking about. The things that happen after you finish swallowing contribute to the wine's finish. That's it. You're now a fully equipped wine taster. Good luck.